I caught myself looking at my best friend's wife. Then she quietly said, "I already know." There are moments that divide your life into two parts, the person you were before, and the person you become after. Mine happened on a quiet autumn afternoon when I looked up from my coffee and found myself staring at my best friend's wife for just a second too long. Before I could look away, she met my eyes with a calm, knowing smile. She didn't look angry. She didn't look surprised. Instead, she quietly said that she already knew. In that instant, my heart dropped, and I was convinced I had just destroyed the most important friendship of my life. Before we continue, if you believe that kindness, forgiveness, and second chances can change lives, please take a moment to like this video, share it with someone who needs hope today, leave a comment telling us where you're watching from, and subscribe to Kindness Corner for more emotional stories that remind us what truly matters. Ryan had been my best friend since we were 12. We had survived school together, struggled through our first jobs, celebrated promotions, and stood beside each other during life's biggest milestones. When he met Emily, I was the first person he called after their first date. I watched him fall hopelessly in love, and when they got married, I proudly stood beside him as his best man. Emily quickly became family to me. She had a warm heart that made everyone feel welcome, and she somehow managed to calm Ryan's restless mind whenever life became overwhelming. They looked like the kind of couple people secretly wished they could become. Everything changed after my divorce. Losing my marriage left me feeling hollow. My apartment became painfully quiet, weekends stretched endlessly, and I buried myself in work to avoid thinking about what I had lost. Ryan refused to let me disappear into loneliness. Almost every Sunday, he and Emily invited me over for dinner. They never made me feel like a burden. Instead, they gave me something I hadn't realized I desperately needed, a place where laughter still existed. As months passed, I began noticing small things about Emily that I had never paid attention to before. It wasn't simply her appearance. It was the way she remembered everyone's favorite meal, the way she encouraged Ryan when he doubted himself, the patience she showed toward strangers, and the kindness she extended without expecting anything in return. After living through a marriage filled with constant arguments, seeing genuine love up close stirred something painful inside me. I wasn't falling in love with Emily as much as I was mourning the kind of relationship I had failed to build myself. That truth terrified me. Every time I caught myself admiring her, guilt washed over me. Ryan trusted me completely. He had stood beside me during the darkest days of my divorce, and the last thing I wanted was to betray that trust even in my own thoughts. So I started declining invitations. I worked late. I stopped answering messages as quickly. I convinced myself that distance would erase whatever confusion I was carrying. Ryan noticed immediately. He kept asking whether everything was all right, but I always blamed work or exhaustion. Emily remained polite, yet I sensed she understood there was more beneath my excuses. Every lie I told made me feel smaller. Then came the afternoon that changed everything. Ryan had stepped outside to take an important business call while Emily cleared the table after lunch. Sunlight streamed through the kitchen window, catching the dust floating gently through the air. She looked exhausted, yet peaceful, humming softly while washing dishes. For a brief second, I caught myself wondering what it must feel like to come home to someone like her every evening. The thought lasted only a heartbeat before shame hit me like a wave. She turned, looked directly into my eyes, and quietly told me she already knew. I froze completely. My mind raced through every possible disaster. I imagined Ryan hearing everything. I imagined losing the brother I had chosen for myself. I could barely breathe. But Emily surprised me. She explained that she had noticed my growing distance, my awkward silences, and the sadness that followed me into every room. She gently said that what she saw wasn't a man trying to steal someone else's wife. She saw a lonely man grieving not only the end of his marriage but also the future he thought he would have. She told me people often confuse longing for happiness with longing for the person who represents it. Her kindness broke something inside me that pride had kept locked away. For the first time since my divorce, I admitted how broken I felt. I confessed that I hated myself for even letting those thoughts cross my mind. I admitted I had been avoiding both of them because I couldn't trust my own emotions anymore. Instead of judging me, she reminded me that our feelings don't define our character, our choices do. She said I had already made the right choice by stepping back instead of crossing a line. When Ryan came back inside, Emily simply smiled and suggested we all take a walk. As we wandered through the nearby park, Ryan casually admitted that he had been worried about me for months. He thought he had somehow failed me as a friend. Hearing that nearly brought me to tears. I realized that while I had been consumed by guilt, the people who loved me had simply been worried that I was suffering alone. Over the following months, everything slowly changed. I accepted therapy instead of pretending I could fix myself in isolation. I joined a local hiking group and began rebuilding friendships I had neglected during my marriage. Ryan continued inviting me over, but now I no longer saw their relationship as something I wished belonged to me. Instead, it became proof that healthy love truly exists, giving me hope that one day I might build something just as meaningful. Looking back, I understand that my greatest mistake wasn't the fleeting thought that frightened me so much. It was believing I had to carry my shame alone. Sometimes the people who love us can see our pain long before we admit it ourselves. Their compassion becomes the bridge that leads us back to who we really are. If this story has touched your heart so far, please pause for just a moment and write the word "hope" in the comments. Your message may encourage someone else who is silently fighting a battle they haven't shared with anyone. Years later, I met someone who loved me with honesty, patience, and quiet strength. Before we married, I invited Ryan to stand beside me as my best man, just as I had done for him years earlier. Emily smiled proudly from the front row, and I silently thanked her for choosing compassion instead of judgment on the day I needed it most. Some people save lives without dramatic heroics. They do it through understanding, wisdom, and the courage to remind another human being that one difficult season does not define an entire life. If this story reminded you that kindness is often stronger than shame, please like this video, share it with someone who may need encouragement today, subscribe to Kindness Corner, and tell us in the comments what lesson stayed with you the most. Your support helps these stories reach hearts that may need them when they need them most. Sometimes redemption doesn't begin with a grand gesture. Sometimes it begins with one gentle sentence spoken at exactly the right moment, proving that understanding can heal wounds that guilt never could.